Okay, good morning to everyone. Your voice audible alle? Screen കാണുന്നുണ്ടോ?
Audible ആണ് കാണുന്നുണ്ട്.
Okay, thank you. So we are moving on to the fourth module of modern optics. So here we will be discussing about diffraction. As you know already, you know what is diffraction is that. So if you have an obstacle or in a path of light, so the light will be bent from that position. So that is actually called a diffraction. So a daily life example of a diffraction is that when you place any object in a path of light, you will observe a shadow corresponding to that in an image. So if you just send a light, then you are placing an object in the path of light, and on the other side, if you have a screen, then in that screen you will observe a shadow corresponding to that. So that means there will be no light is passing through that obstacle because that obstacle is a opaque object. So in that time, so if the obstacle is not transparent to any light, then corresponding to that we will be getting a shadow for that. So actually the light is what's happening for the light. So light is bending at the edges of the light is light is uh, light is bending at the edges of the object. So that's a happening on that case. So if you have a pinhole over here, okay, or like as normal case of slit, then in this case, as we know, the light is coming through coming to this light, so it actually get bended at these edges corresponding to that. So if you put a circular aperture over here, as we know, circular aperture means it's a circular opening. So aperture is basically an opening. Then if a light is incident on this circular pinhole or aperture, so the light is will get diffracted at this edge of point. So correspondingly you will be observing a image over here. Okay. So there will be no light observing on this round portion. Okay. So the light is getting bended over this position. So you will be getting a image of shadow corresponding to that on the screen. So that's happening in a case of diffraction. So it's because the spreading of light is even after passing through a very small aperture, we will be getting a shadow corresponding to that. So as we know, diffraction is that what? And diffraction is first explained by using Huygens principle. In Huygens principle, he has explained the diffraction by using, as we know, if a wave is inciding on an object, it generating a primary waves corresponding to that, and that primary wave again can generate a secondary wave, so it can act as a source of a secondary wave. Okay, so the principle is originally stated that the propagation of light wave can be predicted that each point of a wavefront act as a source of a secondary wave that's spread out in all directions. So each point of wavefront that act as a source of a secondary wave that spread out in all directions, that is Huygens principle. And in Huygens principle, what he has discussed is that he has explained uh, the diffraction by using wave propagation. നെക്സ്റ്റ് ടൈം ക്ലാസ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ 11:15 എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ 11:15 ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യാം. ഓക്കെ, അതിനുശേഷം നമ്മുടെ ക്ലാസ്സിന് ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് ഡിസ്ട്രാക്ട് ചെയ്യും. ഓക്കെ, ഇനി നെക്സ്റ്റ് ടൈം ഇങ്ങനെ ആവർത്തിച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ ക്ലാസ് അഡ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്യില്ല. 11:15 എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ 11:15 അതിന് മുമ്പ് നിങ്ങൾ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യുക. ഓക്കെ, ഫൈൻ. സോ ഹൈഗൻസ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ ബേസിക്കലി പറയുന്നത് എന്താ വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്കൊരു സ്ലിറ്റ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ സ്ലിറ്റിൽ ഒരു വേവ് വന്ന് ഇൻസിഡന്റ് ചെയ്തു, ഇവിടെ ഒരു വേവ് ഫോം ജനറേറ്റ് ചെയ്തു. ഈ വേവ് ഫോം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന അഗെയിൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഇവിടെ രണ്ട് സ്ലിറ്റിലൂടെ കടന്നു പോവുകയാണെങ്കിൽ so again if you have a double slit over here, then this wave is incident on this wave, then you will generate a secondary wave from these two both point. So the source of Huygens principle saying that each point of a wavefront act as a act as a source of secondary wave. Okay, that spread out in all direction. Okay, so that's all about Huygens principle. So Huygens principle അതിന്റെ ഒരു എക്സ്പെരിമെന്റൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ ബിഹേവിയർ ആണ് ബേസിക്കലി ഹൈഗൻ പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഒരു വേവ് ഇൻസിഡന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു, ആ വേവ് ഒരു പ്രൈമറി വേവ് ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ആ പ്രൈമറി വേവ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇതിന്റെ ഓരോ പോയിന്റും, ആ വേവ് ഫ്രണ്ടിലെ ഓരോ പോയിന്റും എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്താണ്, അതിന്റെ സെക്കൻഡറി വേവ് ജനറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സോഴ്സ് ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യും. ഓക്കെ, സോ അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നിങ്ങൾ envelope of all the secondary wave എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്താണ്, it is a new wave front. So envelope of a secondary wave will be a new wave front. So അങ്ങനെ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, കണ്ടിന്യൂസ് ആയിട്ട് ഈ പ്രോസസ്സ് എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ പാറ്റേൺ ഒബ്സർവ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് അറിയാം. ഇവിടെ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ പാറ്റേൺ ഒബ്സർവ് ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ് ഒരു ടൈനി ഒബ്സ്റ്റക്കിലൂടെ ലൈറ്റ് ഒരപ്പാക്ക് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ടൈനി ഒബ്സ്റ്റക്കിലൂടെ ലൈറ്റ് പാസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പം ലൈറ്റിനുണ്ടാകുന്ന ബെൻഡിങ് ആണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ആ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ്റെ ഒരു സിമിലർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ ആയിരുന്നു നമ്മൾ എക്സ്റേ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷനിലൊക്കെ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ എക്സ്റേ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷനിൽ ഒരു എക്സ്റേ റേസ് ഒരു ലാറ്റിസ് സൈറ്റിലെ ഒരു ആറ്റവുമായിട്ട് ഇൻസിഡൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പം ആ ഒരു പോയിന്റിൽ നിന്ന് ലൈറ്റ് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, ഡിഫ്രാക്ട് ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. ആ ഡിഫ്രാക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ലൈറ്റിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ എക്സ്റേ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അതൊരു ടൂളായിട്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് എലമെൻറ്റ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മെറ്റീരിയൽസ് എക്സ്റേ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ വെച്ചിട്ട് പഠിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇനി വേവ് ഫോം ഒരു ഒബ്സ്റ്റക്കിൾ തട്ടിയിട്ട് ബെൻഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് കറസ്പോണ്ടിങ് ആയിട്ട് നമുക്കൊരു പാറ്റേൺസ് ഫോം ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിനാണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ പാറ്റേൺസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഇനി നമ്മുടെ മെയിൻ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഡിസ്കഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഹൈഗൻസ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ അല്ല. ഹൈഗൻസ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞു അതൊരു എക്സ്പെരിമെൻ്റൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു അഡ്രസ്സിംഗ് ആണ്. അതായത് വേവ് ഇൻസിഡൻ്റ് ആകുമ്പോൾ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അതിന് നമ്മൾ സെക്കൻഡറി വേവ് ജനറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. നമുക്കത് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം, അത് എക്സ്പെരിമെൻ്റൽ ആയിട്ട് നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റും. ഇനി നമുക്ക് ഈ എക്സ്പെരിമെൻ്റൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഹൈഗൻസ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം, ഒരു മാത്തമെറ്റിക്കൽ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റേഷൻ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം. ആ മാത്തമെറ്റിക്കൽ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റേഷനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഫ്രെണൽ കിർച്ചോഫ് ഫോർമുല എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, സോ ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം മോഡേൺ ഒപ്റ്റിക്സിൻ്റെ ആസ്പെക്റ്റിൽ so our important aspect is to discuss the mathematical representation of diffraction. Okay, so Huygens didn't attempt the diffraction patterns in a mathematical representation, and Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula actually represented the mathematical form of diffraction. So which is a mathematical form of diffraction. So by using this one you can say the diffraction of light by obstacles and apertures. So if you get a general formula for a diffraction case, then you can use any apertures, obstacles by keeping the dimension of that one. So as we know, aperture is a circular, it's an opening, so it can be circular, rectangular or a line aperture. So any can be possible for a aperture if we consider. Okay, so if we'll get a general formula by using Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. So that what we are using is that we take that any two scalar function to obtain a Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. So we take that two scalar point function. Okay, we take scalar point function, that is u and v as the two scalar point function which satisfy the usual condition of continuity and the integrability. Okay, so here we use a theorem which is called Green theorem. Okay, by using Green theorem we are making this Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. So what is Green theorem state that? So Green theorem actually states that, so if you have a double integral gradient n f dA which is equal to triple integral over del dot f dv, where f is equal to u delta v minus v delta u. Okay, and also we have a vector identity. Also we have a vector identity, that is del dot u delta v which is equal to u del square v plus del u dot del v. Okay, so by using these two, this relation, we'll get an equation that is in the form, if you substitute f is equal to u delta v, then v delta u in the equation, then you will be getting an equation that is in the form, you can say that by Green's theorem the gradient of, that is what I represent in GRD, I think it's GRAD also I can write as GRAD is a gradient n. So what is gradient n means? It is a normal component of gradient at the surface of integration. Okay, so grad n means normal component of gradient at the surface of integration. So that is we represented as grad n. Okay, so now you are putting f is equal to u delta v minus v delta u in this equation, and if you by using this identity, vector identity, you will be getting an equation that will be like this, that is double integral v grad n u minus u grad n v dA equal to triple integral v del square u minus u del square v over a volume that is dV. How do we get this equation? So we given the equation that, so if we substitute our f is equal to u delta v minus v delta u in this equation, and also similarly you can represent v f is equal to u delta v minus v delta u in this equation, then you will be getting a corresponding form which will be like this. And the important part is that the left hand integral extends over a closed surface, as you know it's dA. So this is about, this integration is extending on a closed surface A, and the right hand side the integral includes the volume V within the surface. So within the surface the volume V is represented as by this triple integral v del square u minus u del square v dv. Okay, I think this is clear. How do we get this equation? This is by just by substituting f is equal to u delta v minus v delta u in the this Green theorem. Okay, so you'll be getting this equation corresponding to that. Okay, so now we got that this integration can be represented in that way. So now what we do is that, as we know the wave function, so the wave function we have is that u and v is the wave function we have here. Okay, so if you have a wave function, it should satisfy the regular wave equation, right? It should satisfy the wave equation, and we know that del square u is equal to 1 by u square dou square u by dou t square is the wave equation in a homogeneous case. This equation we have seen in our electrodynamics, and also we have seen in the introduction part of modern optics. This can be either represented as del square u minus 1 minus u square dou square u by dou t square. I think now it will be more clear how we represented this equation. And similarly, we get del square v is equal to 1 by v square del square dou square v by dou t square as the equation corresponding to the second wave function. And from that, if we can write an equation, wave equation in this form, we know that the time dependency of this term will be e plus or minus I omega t is the time dependence of this both term. Okay, time dependence of this harmonic time dependence can be represented as e raised to plus or minus I omega t, because we know that u equal to can be represented as u equal to u0 e raised to plus or minus I omega t plus e raised to into e raised to I k a, like we used to represent. Okay, so we can say that the dependency of time dependency of u and v can be represented in terms of e raised to plus or minus uh, I omega t. Okay, so if you substitute this equation into that is, at least if you substitute u0 e raised to plus or minus I omega t in the equation, and v equal to v0 e raised to plus or minus I omega t in the equation, then you will be getting the volume part will be getting as 0. Okay, so if you integrate over del square v by dou t square and del square u by dou t square, then it will be almost look like a similar representation. Then we can say that the volume part of the equation will be 0 if you apply the time dependence e raised to plus or minus I omega t. Then we can say that the volume integral of Green's theorem will be equal to 0, so that our equation will be reduced to the form v grad n u minus u gradient n of v dA equal to 0. Okay, now why 0? Because the volume integral is 0. That's why we get the surface, the integral over a surface, then we will be obtaining as 0. And also we take that, now we have a wave function which can take the form v is equal to v0 e raised to I k r plus omega t, okay, plus omega t divided by r. So this is a wave function v represented in terms of v equal to v0 e raised to I k r plus omega t. So now we'll just discuss. So for here, I represented V equal to V0 I K R plus omega t. So for that I have just taken an area over here, like simply an area over here. So I'll be just taking a small area within the region. So where I represent P, okay, and this distance I can represent it as uh, this distance I can represent it as rho, okay, or the density, or I can represent it as rho here. So here the radius we represent as rho here, and the gradient perpendicular to that is n over here. So surface integration of, so here we just do that, we need to integrate over this area. In that area we have taken a small area where we have a origin at P, okay. So the spherical wave, if you consider here, so if you consider a spherical wave, okay, which will converge at P where r equal to 0. So the radial distance r will be equal to 0 at this point, okay. Now we let the volume enclosed by the surface of integration include the point P. Since V becomes infinite at P, we must exclude that, because if you give V equal to 0 over here, so as we know V of r equal to 0 will be infinity over here, okay. So that is, if you give r equal to 0, then we will be obtaining V equal to infinity at this point, okay. So what is r equal to 0? It is the point at P. So what we do that, we will just exclude this point from the our discussion, because at this point our wave function is infinity. So how do we exclude this one? So for that, so we use a standard method of subtracting an integral over a small sphere of radius rho centered at P. So for that, what we do that, in this small sphere, right, where we consider that r equal to rho in that area, okay. We have taken a small sphere here at P is there, and from the center point to this sphere we have the radius is equal to r equal to rho, and also we consider that the gradient n here, gradient n will be equal to minus dou by dou r. So these are the two consideration we will be considering. Because why we are considering this, we need to remove this particular area from this entire enclosed area, because at this small area at the point P the wave function is infinity. So by if you consider the entire area, we need to remove this particular area. For that we consider that r is equal to rho, and for this small sphere, and gradient n is equal to minus dou by dou r. So by considering that, so we'll take the equation in this form, that is e raised to I k r divided by r, gradient n u minus u gradient n e raised to I k r by r dA, okay, dA. Now we need to minus the area of that small sphere, that is double integral of e raised to I k r by r, okay. Then dou u by dou r minus u dou by dou r e raised to I k r by r. So what is the consideration here? At this region the r is equal to rho, okay. Then if you do the volume of area over here, so it will be rho square d, which is should be equal to 0. So that is our condition for this case, okay. Okay, so this is a condition over here. So we need, if we need to the enclosed area volume, we need to remove that particular region why we have taken e raised to ikr here? E raised to ikr by r means, which is actually we represented v. So we just taken v in terms of e raised to ikr by r here. Okay, we just removed the time dependency term, we didn't consider here. We only taken the position dependency e raised to ikr by r. So if you substitute that into equation where we had v, so we'll be getting the equation. What is d sigma here? Sorry, d sigma is, which is the element of solid angle on the sphere. Okay, this is the element of solid angle on the sphere. Okay, so which is centered at P. Okay, and if you take rho square d sigma, so which has give the element area. Okay, element of area will give you the recent one. Okay, rho square d sigma will give you the area of the corresponding to that. And also, why we didn't take that v0 e raised to I omega t means, if you take that is a common factor, then v0 e raised to I omega t will cancel out. Okay, because it's a common factor in both v, so we can say that common factor here. So that's why we didn't represent it in that equation. Now, okay, this is the equation. If you want to take the area of this enclosed area by subtracting the small area where the v equal to infinity. Okay, so now we consider that the rho shrink to 0. So we say that the r is equal to rho, which is shrinking to 0. Okay, then the limit as rho approaches to 0, the integrand of the second integral approaches the value that u has at the point P. So namely, so if rho is approaching to 0, the second integral approaches the value will be getting, so we have a value only will be obtaining that Vp will be obtaining, that is e raised to ikr by r, right? So if you represented r is equal to rho e raised to ik rho by rho, if you are saying that this is approaching to 0, then you will be obtaining only the value corresponding to u. Then you can say that at that point the wave function present in up will be, so p will be only u, so that we represent as up here. So consequently the second integral will have the value will be getting as up sigma will be equal to 4 pi up. Okay, so this is the condition when rho tends to 0, r equal to rho tends to 0, we will get a double integral of up sigma. This is the second integral. Okay, second integral term, so which is approaching to this value. Now if you consider the equation we represented above, like this equation, if you substitute this into the, this equation, then we will be getting that this part will be what we are getting, this is double integral of up d sigma, which is equal to 4 pi up. Then if you substituting that to here, then you will be getting the equation as like this, that is we have 1 second, double integral e raised to ikr by r gradient n u minus u gradient n e raised to ikr by r, okay, dA, which is which is minus, we will have the value which is equal to 4 pi up, you will be getting the value. Okay, now if you want to find the up, then you will be having 1 by 4 pi, okay, 1 by 4 pi into double integral of this, I just simply rearrange, then I will take u gradient n u gradient n e raised to I k r by r minus e raised to I k r by r gradient of n u dA will be the solution for that. Here we will be having a minus also because we have just rearranged these terms. Okay. Okay. So we just rearranged this term here. So we have a minus over here. Okay. So we have a minus. You just rearrange u gradient e raised to I k r minus r onto the this side. Then you will be getting u gradient e raised to I k r minus e raised to I k r by r gradient u will be getting. So we just rearrange it. Then the up will be equal to minus 1 by 4 pi double integral u gradient n e raised to I k r by r minus e raised to I k r gradient u by dA. Okay. This equation is known as Kirchhoff integral theorem. Okay. This particular equation is called Kirchhoff integral. So this is called Kirchhoff integral theorem. Okay. So that is the assumption we got. And now what is the Kirchhoff integral theorem is saying about? So value of any scalar function at any point inside an arbitrary closed surface to the value of the wave function at the surface. Okay. So it's actually relating the any scalar wave function at any point P inside an arbitrary closed surface to the values of a wave function at the surface. So we have got a relation of the small area. Actually what is UP means? So UP means the wave function at P, right? So the wave function at P is representing our UP. So which can be related to the wave functions of the entire enclosed area. So which is actually represented by the Kirchhoff integral theorem. So if you apply the Kirchhoff integral theorem to the diffraction, the wave function u we consider as, so if you apply this into diffraction, the u we consider as the optical disturbance. So that means the obstacle. Okay, optical disturbance. The wave function u can be considered as the optical disturbance. And also if you take the u square of this one, so which will be getting the irradiance value of that is the maximum intensity of that. So we'll be getting the irradiance value if you take the u square of that. So actually u here it is representing the optical disturbance. So if your light is traveling through that and if it is incidenting on a particularly larger so on an obstacle or a aperture, so that light get deviated. Okay. So now we just to address what is Fresnel Kirchhoff formula is. So we just only said what is Kirchhoff integral theorem here. So that is, so if you consider an area, now you just imagine you have a slit. What is a slit means? So you have a rectangular shape, in that there is a small aperture is there or a small hole is there. So similar representation we have done for Kirchhoff integral theorem. So you have a larger area, okay, in that if you assign a small hole in that one, small pinhole, so this optical disturbance അല്ലെങ്കിൽ intensity at this point can be related to, or the wave function at this point can be related to the entire enclosed area, which is actually represented by Kirchhoff integral theorem. So now we got an idea. So if you have a rectangular shaped box. In that, if you put a pinhole, the light if is traveling through that, then we'll have a diffraction. So Kirchhoff actually saying that you take an area, then in that area there is a small portion, and where the wave function will be infinity, then if you want to get the entire integration of that area, then you have to remove that smaller area in that portion. So Kirchhoff only say that integration regarding that small area and that large enclosed area. Now we need to assign this Kirchhoff formula into Fresnel's approximation. So what Fresnel has been done is that, so as we know, Fresnel's formula, when we hear that, so we first thing it's came into mind is that we are experimenting something, right? So we have an experimental facility corresponding to that. So what we do that, we'll apply the Kirchhoff integral theorem to a general problem of diffraction of light. Okay, we'll apply Kirchhoff integral theorem to a general problem of diffraction of light. So here the diffraction is produced by an aperture. Okay, so I said aperture is a small opening where light can pass through. Okay, so the diffraction produced by a small aperture. For instance, I take this n as the normal to this, and this small portion, right, so which is represented as the aperture, and we consider that this is the entire volume we had. Okay, in that point we have a p. Okay, so the distance of separation from the center of aperture to p is r, and we have a source over here, and the light is passing through the source, so this is represented as r dash. So from a source S, the light is traveling through an aperture and is getting a diffraction pattern on P with the distance r from the aperture. So this is the image we have to have. So this is an entire area. In that entire area we have got a small portion where P we have to find the corresponding wave function in that case. So our aim is to determine the optical disturbance reaching the receiving point P from the source S. So for that we apply the Kirchhoff integral theorem. So we choose the surface integration such that it encloses the receiving point and includes the as part of it. So the aperture opening indicated in the figure is, you can see that there is a narrow aperture is open. So here we have two basic assumptions we have to introduce before that. So first one is that the wave function, un, its gradient contribute negligible amount to the integral except the aperture opening. Okay, so this was the first assumption, and the second assumption is that the value of u and grad u at the aperture are the same as they would be in the absence of partition. So for considering Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula, we take a two simply assumption, that is the wave function u and its gradient contribute negligible amount to the integral except at the aperture opening itself. and the value of u and gradient u at the aperture are the same, they would be in the absence of partition. Okay, if there is a partition or not, or if there is an aperture or not, the gradient u and u will be contributing the same amount in both cases. Okay, so the validity of this assumption actually need to be debatable, but we'll just take this assumption and we'll continue to obtain a Fresnel Kirchhoff formula. For that, what we do is that we have taken u is equal to here. We already have seen what is v is. Now we take that u equal to u0 e raised to I k r dash minus omega t divided by r dash. Okay, already we consider what is v is. V is equal to v0 e raised to I k r plus omega t, okay, divided by r, and we have taken u as like this as well. Okay, now we represent this equation by giving for a case we consider that if you have a monochromatic wave. Okay, so if you have a monochromatic wave with one frequency, so which is traveling outward from source S. Okay, the Kirchhoff formula will be, in that case, the Kirchhoff integral can be represented as up equal to u underscore p equal to u0 e raised to minus I omega t divided by 4 pi integral e raised to I k r divided by r gradient of n e raised to I k r dash by r dash minus e raised to I k r dash gradient n e raised to I k r by r into dA. Okay, into okay, sorry. Okay, so we'll have dA also here, dA. Okay, so now we get the where the integration extends only over the aperture opening. Okay, so this integration extend over only on aperture opening. Okay, and also we already having certain operations, right? So we have to say that the gradient of n will be equal to gradient of n of e raised to I k r by r, which we will get that cos n r dou by dou r e raised to I k r by r, which is equal to cos n r I k e raised to k r divided by r minus e raised to I k r divided by r square. So this is gradient n e raised to I k r by r is, and similarly gradient n e raised to I k r dash by r dash. So we'll have the form cos n r dash dou by dou r dash e raised to I k r dash divided by r dash is equal to cos n r e raised to I k r dash ik r dash minus e raised to ik r dash divided by r dash square will be a gradient n e raised to ik r and e raised to uh, ik r dash by r dash. So what is n r dash and n r? Okay, so which is actually denoting n r and r dash actually denoting the angle between the vectors. Okay, angle between the vectors and the normal to the surface of integration. Okay, so now we already have equation gradient n e raised to ikr by r and gradient n e raised to ikr dash by r dash. We have got the equation, and if you just compare the equation, these two equation, or if you compare the second term in the equation can be negligibly small compared to the first term in the normal situation, where r and r dash are much larger than the wavelength of the radiation, because k equal to 2 pi by lambda, and consequently we can neglect the second term of the equation, that is if we consider e raised to kr by r square and e raised to kr dash by r square, which is r dash square, right? So if the r dash value is negligibly this will be very small when r is very large. Okay, so we can remove this term, then we'll take the equation as the form. We'll have up equal to, if we substitute that into equation, then up will be getting that minus ik u0 e raised to minus I omega t divided by 4 pi double integral of e raised to ik r plus r dash divided by r dash into cos nr minus cos nr dash, okay, dA. So this will be your final representation of the equation, and this equation is called Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. Okay, so this is called Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. Okay, we just consider here as simple case where we have a aperture opening on a slit. So it says state that the mathematical statement of a Huygens principle. Okay, so this is the formulation we need to use for mathematically if you represent over a volume. So how do we represent this one? So in order to represent the Huygens representation, if you have to say, then we can say that the figure will be look like this here. So here we have a narrow opening over here, then this there is a source, it's coming to here. Okay, and we have r dash is here, and there is a normal also coming from here, that is n. So the p will be here. Okay, r. Okay, so what is actually there is a source. From a source the light is coming, it is passing through the aperture, and the corresponding diffraction pattern is obtaining at the p. Okay, so it can be represented simply like this. So in this case r dash is a constant. Okay, so this is the Huygens representation of Kirchhoff integral formula, and we can take that r dash, if r dash is a constant value, if r dash is constant, then we can take this cos n r dash will be equal to minus 1 If that's so, the Fresnel Kirchhoff formula will be reducing to the form UP equal to minus IK by 4 pi double integral of UA e raised to I kr minus omega t divided by r, so which has the form cos nr plus 1 dA. So this is the case where I have represented UA, right? UA is equal to U0 e raised to I kr dash by r dash. Okay. So this equation gives the simple interpretation of diffraction. So that is UA is the complex amplitude of incident primary wave. Okay, UA is the complex amplitude of incident primary wave. Okay, at the aperture. From this primary wave, each element dA of the aperture give rise to a secondary wave. So by using this UA, each point in the aperture give rise to, that is each dA will give rise to a secondary waveform. That is actually saying about simple interpretation of this equation. So if you take this equation, if you have a UA as the complex amplitude of the primary incident ray, so which is giving rise to a secondary wave which has the form UA into e raised to I kr omega t. Okay, so UA is, this is primary incident wave, and this is secondary wave generated. Okay, secondary wave generated. So the total optical disturbance at the receiving point P is obtained by the secondary wave from each element. However, in the summation, we need to address the factor of cos nr minus cos nr dash, which is known as obligatory factor. Okay, we say that the combination of the total optical disturbance at the receiving point P is obtained by the summing of secondary waves from each element, okay, and we represented a term, right, cos nr minus cos nr dash, which is called obligatory factor. Okay, obligatory factor. So in the case under the discussion, we have cos nr dash is equal to minus 1. So we can say that in that case, if we have cos nr dash is equal to minus 1, the obligatory factor will be cos nr plus 1. So this is the obligatory factor where cos nr dash is equal to minus 1. And similarly, we have cos nr is equal to, so if the wave is propagating along forward direction, then we can say that the cos nr will be for forward direction, cos nr will be, we know that maximum value will come. Then in that case, the obligatory factor will be 2 for, if cos nr dash is equal to minus 1 and cos nr equal to 1 for a forward direction wave, then we will have obligatory factor will be 2. So this will be the this is the maximum value of obligatory factor. Okay, obligatory factor. So now if you consider the wave is propagating or the light is moving on the backward direction, then we have cos nr equal to minus 1, then the obligatory factor will be, in that case, obligatory factor will be equal to 0. Okay. So obliquity factor will be equal to 0 in that case. This explains that there should not be any backward progressing wave created by an original wave. Okay, so if you consider the Huygens principle, the obliquity factor becomes 0. That means there will be no backward progression, backward progression or backward wave when we have secondary wave generated in a by Huygens principle. So the Huygens principle originally proposed that he didn't included the obliquity factor there, but he said that if a wave is incidenting any point, it is the wavefront of the primary wave. Each point of the wavefront of the primary wave, it can act as a secondary wave source. Okay, so that's about, and we say that the obliquity factor becomes 0 when the wave is progressing on the backward direction, so that we can say that the wave will not, or else we can say that no backward progression of wave will be allowed for a original wavefront. Okay, and also we see the presence of minus I means that the diffracted waves are shifted in phase by 90 degree. Okay, if the diffracted phase is shifted by 90 degree, then there will be a obliquity factor will be so there will be a case that obliquity factor will be equal to minus I. Obliquity factor which will be equal to minus I. What it means is that uh, the diffracted X-rays, sorry, diffracted rays are shifted in phase by 90 degree. So that's the reason why we got a minus I over. So how do we consider the shift? So by considering the shift with respect to primary wave, primary incident wave. So if you have a phase shift of 90 degree in a diffracted X-ray with respect to incident ray, then we will have a obliquity factor will be equal to minus I. Okay, so this is about mainly about Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. So there is a one more thing we need to add into this discussion, that is about complementary aperture, that is complementary aperture and Babinet's principle. Babinet's principle. So this is a very simple one. I'll just discuss it in 5 minutes. Okay. So we have a complementary aperture, and by considering in that respect, so we'll have a discussion on that too. So we have a complementary aperture. So what is a complementary aperture means? So we consider the aperture here as A, right? So if we have a aperture as A, and we consider that produce a certain optical disturbance UP at a given point P. Okay, so consider a diffracting aperture A that produces a certain optical disturbance UP at a given observing point P. Suppose now the aperture is divided into two. Okay, so the aperture is divided into A1 plus A2. It's a similar example of a double slit case. Okay, so we just divided the aperture into two. Then the two aperture A1, A2 are then said to be complementary. Okay, if you can divide this into two, then we can say that this is a complementary aperture. Okay, A1 and A2 are called complementary aperture. Okay, complementary aperture. So an example is, as you can see that a complementary aperture is, as you can simply represent it, if I have a plane like this, so there are two slit placed, as I said, double slit experiment. So this is a two slits I have. Okay, so single rectangular figure I have divided into two, or else you can just divide it like this as well. There are two ways you can create a aperture. that is this entire one is a dark portion. Okay, there are two slight opening. The light will be only traveling through that white space. Remaining all portions are opaque. Okay, in the second case, the except this two small portion, all the other portions, through that portion light can travel. Okay, so by taking that case, so the UP will be equal to UP1 plus UP2. So we have two apertures here. Then we have two optical disturbance, and the total optical disturbance will be U1P plus U2P, and where U1P is the optical disturbance at P produced by the aperture A1, and U2P is the optical disturbance produced by aperture A2. And the equation above is one of the form of theorems known as, so this is called Babinet's principle. If you have two apertures A1 and A2, and the optical disturbance will be equal to UP1 plus UP2, so this is called Babinet's principle. So easy, right? So Babinet's principle is very useful in certain special cases, especially if UP equal to 0. So what is the case of UP equal to 0? So in that case, we can say that U1P will be equal, or UP1 will be equal to minus UP2. Okay, the complementary apertures in this case yield an identical optical disturbance, except that they differ by phase at 180 degree. So the intensity at P being equal to the absolute square of optical disturbance is therefore same for the two aperture. So this for a collimated beam of light, we have a searchlight and all. So the condition UP equal to is 0 is valid for those point P not in the direct beam case. So if the beam is not in the direct beam case, then we'll have UP equal to 0. And the aperture being defined by the size of the beam, then according to the Babinet principle, the diffraction pattern will result if the beam is diffused by screen containing a small circular hole or a large number of randomly placed hole or a firm particle. So according to Babinet principle, the same diffraction pattern will result if the beam is diffused by a screen containing a small circular hole or a large number of randomly placed hole the same size as the fog particle. What it means is that, so if you have a optical disturbance of UP as a large one, then you have a small portion. In order to equalize this one to the same size of this optical disturbance or the same effect of this optical disturbance, we need to have n number of these holes in order to compensate this one. Okay, that is, this will be a sum of this all one. Okay, so that is what it's saying, the total optical disturbance will be equal to the optical disturbance at each apertures A1, A2 like that. So that is Babinet's principle. Okay, so with that discussion, I am winding up today's session about Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula, diffraction, and Huygens principle. And we have firstly we identified the Huygens principle. Then we taken the mathematical form of diffraction or mathematical form of Huygens principle by using by Kirchhoff formula, and further by followed by Fresnel-Kirchhoff formula. Then finally we have seen Babinet's principle, where we have two apertures A1 and A2, and the corresponding optical disturbance will be a sum of the two optical disturbance. So that's all about for today. So if you have any query or clarification, you can ask now.